Good morning. The name of the devotional this morning is If It Weren't for You. If it weren't for you. By far the most demanding and difficult requirement that Jesus set before his followers is, interestingly, the first commandment of the Old Testament. The scribe who inquired of Jesus which commandment is first of all is met with the basic foundation of the Christian faith. The Lord our God, the Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. Our relationship to God is the most important thing in our life. Consider with me some implications of this primary commandment in our daily living. Anytime we let someone else stand between us and our relationship to God, we are essentially saying, my relationship to whoever it is more important than my relationship to God. There is a game, I think, that we play which can be sort of characterized by the phrase, if it weren't for you. I recall hearing an elder in one of our Christian churches who told his pastor of his intense dislike for another elder in the congregation. And he told his pastor, I will be willing to serve at the communion table as long as I don't have to serve with so-and-so, the person's name. He absolutely refused to come to the Lord's Supper, which he felt strongly about as the heart of the worship service. But if the other person was going to serve with the communion table with him, he would not do it. Are you able to hear the phrase, if it weren't for you, in the elder's statement? Any person who has made any sort of evangelistic calls for the church has run across some people who would say, I would come to the church, but there are some people in your church who are really hypocrites and so forth. And they might even mention them by name. Do you hear the phrase in the background, if it weren't for you? Some persons use this with the pastor of the church or one of the teachers or officers. Since the pastor is more easily identified, responsible, and visible, the phrase is often implied in statements and feelings that are related to the pastor. If it weren't for you, pastor, I would do this and this and this for the church. If it weren't for you, I would give to the church. If it weren't for you, if it weren't for you, I could really worship God. If it weren't for you, I could really come and be a part of this church. The reverse of this is sometimes true. The phrase, usually implied and often said outside of our awareness, is if you would just do this and this and this, which is really another way of saying, if it weren't for you, or if you would do this, is there any way in which what I have written about this, if it weren't for you, is there any way that it is applicable to you and to your life? One way of looking at it is my anger and dislike and my animosity, my feeling about this person is stronger than my love for God. Now that's putting it rather bluntly to you, but I'm not sure but what that is really the way that it needs to be said, and it needs to call that kind of question into what you're saying. if it weren't for this person, I could really be a good Christian. I could do this and this and this if it weren't for him or for her. Well, let me urge you to do one or two of these things. One, first, recognize that you are playing a game, a dangerous game, in which you and your relationship to God is suffering because you are allowing someone to stand between you and God. You need to decide if that is true for you, and if you possibly can, decide why it is true for you. How you are allowing a person to have power over your life by determining how you will live because of your relationship to the other person. In your prayers, ask God to help you work through the personal difficulty so that you may be doing what you feel and believe will bring about a closeness between you and God. Second, trust that doing whatever is necessary to bring you back into a growing closeness with God will be right and good and beneficial and bring you a closeness to God, and I believe in the long run help you to solve your relationship to the other person. In other words, trust that loving God first and most and doing whatever is required to love him and express that love will help other things to work out right and good. Third, remember, we act ourselves into new ways of thinking. We do not think ourselves into new ways of acting. Do something about your love for God. Don't just think about it. Following Jesus Christ is described primarily with verbs, not nouns. God so loved us that he took action. Right? Right. Our love requires us to act and follow in the way of Jesus the Christ. Think about it, will you? And pray about it, will you?